Does GST apply on flipping properties? The biggest million-dollar question that everyone asks. PPOR flips that every accountant talks about. Don't pay GST, don't pay tax, go back, do it again. Is that a myth or is that a reality? And how many times can you do this? Secret stash of fixer-uppers, that you have. You're like, oh, I'm just going to dip into this. Talk to me about that. How do you spot them? When you talk about renovated properties and valuers and how people value this, be it real estate agents or bank valuers or owner-occupier walking through them, what has your experience been? Is there a lift instantly? And when you talk about structural renovations, was it cosmetic renovations? In cosmetic renovations, are we talking the path of taking walls down, stripping the walls, doing new plasters, or is it just a lick and or shift basically? Hello and welcome to another episode of Help Me Buy Property podcast. This is part 2 of our Renovations in Real Estate series. Previously, we unpacked the fine line between the passion and the greed when it comes to property flipping and how does ATO views it. Today, we are going to take this discussion to the next level. We are going to dive into smart tax strategies, the importance of having the right accountant and how to spot renovation opportunities that actually stacks up. We'll share our practical tips on cosmetic versus structural renovations and how to avoid overcapitalizing your flips. So if you are ready to turning renovations into profitable strategies rather than just the financial headache, you're in the right place. Let's just jump right through it. I'm going to throw a curve in here. Two things. So one is, does GST apply on flipping properties? The biggest million-dollar question that everyone asks.
The answer is yes. It depends how you're structured and it depends on the type of property and how much money you're injecting into those renovations. Look, really, my favorite types of deals, if you're going to do stuff and you want to keep it simple, there's plenty of profit in doing those low set, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, those 40 to 50-year-old display home project homes in areas where the location really works numbers wise, where there's a nice disparity between the unrenovated and renovated properties. So those properties will keep you out of trouble. They're just smaller renovations. They're cosmetic. You can make plenty of money out of those. When people strip everything back to the boards, then everything's more. The cost is more. The taxation implications are different. So yeah, I just calm the farm. Let's calm the farm. Let's keep it cool. Let's just keep focusing on deals that work for us, and let's structure properly with our accountants. The taxation department is going to take a chunk of us no matter how we go about things or what we do. So you think about the long game, write your goals down, be really certain about your goals when you speak to your accountant and be firm. They won't believe you. When you say property is it for me, I'm going to flip for income and leave my job in a couple of years. A lot of accountants will go, oh yeah, sure you will, thinking, oh no, you won't. So be firm. If that's your thing, be firm with your accountant so they can set you up to win.
Yeah.
So minimizing tax is a big part of what we do. Avoiding tax, well, we've got to pay some tax.
Just for the viewers and listeners to understand this a bit more, when you sell a brand new property, you have to pay GST because it's a taxable item, right? When you have a renovated property, are you saying that depending on how extensive the renovation is, that the GST comes in or doesn't comes in? Because technically, if you're doing say 10 or 15 flips a year, you're buying and selling properties. Are the properties taxable?
Oh, I don't want to talk like I'm an accountant. If you're structured as a business and you're
Yep.
running it as a business, then you're going to be paying GST, full stop. And honestly, I like my guys to structure differently other than in their own names.
Sure. Okay, perfect. And one more curve question. PPOR flips that every accountant talks about and everyone talks about. Buy a property, flip it, live in it for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, sell it, make the money, don't pay GST, don't pay tax, go back, do it again. Is that a myth or is that a reality? And how many times can you do this?
Okay, according to the taxation department and strictly what's true and their expectations, if you have the intention, whether it be your PPR or not, if your intention is to profit from a renovation and to sell that home and keep the money, they will chase you down for capital gains tax. You won't be capital gains exempt. So it's all about your intention. Now, we have lots of reasons for selling property. You might have bought a property and you've done it up and it looks amazing. and you've wanted to hold it. It's your dream PPR, but the dog next door drives you crazy, barks all day, or the neighbors have parties every weekend, or the traffic out the front is too noisy and you need to sell, or you've changed your mind. There's lots of things that we can do and say, but I think that we have to be careful around the legalities.
Yes.
There is good profit in renovating. I think it would those people who jump in homes and they flip one a year and they do it in their PPR, and they also have property trusts or some kind of property business on the side, the taxation department's gonna say, "Well, hang on a minute, you're in the business of property. It's clearly what you're doing to earn income," and they'll chase you down. So we just have to be careful. We have to be mindful of what the regs are and be
And
careful.
look, I think the media talks about this quite openly. So I'm just surprised that, we can't discuss this on a podcast. I've seen various different articles where people, and I think the block and people come on the block talking about, hey, we are professional flippers and, they share the story. So look, I mean, tax office is not an idiot. They realize and understand that, people are doing this. And it
Yeah.
comes down to how much do you abuse the system, touch wood, right? Come down to like, you need to be responsible about this. You can't go around flipping properties, every 4 months and claiming your principal
Non-stop.
place of residence. To your original point, where does passion turns into greed is basically what draws the line into all of this as well. Tax office sees this as, hey, you do this once a while, that's okay, right? You do this every 6 months, and now this is greed talking, and no, you can't
Correct,
abuse
you're
it,
spot on.
right?
Most people will move into a property and make improvements. We're wired
Yes.
that way. Australia's wired that way. We have a
Okay.
passion to changing the way that we live so that we enjoy our homes. And then we're also in an environment where property is a sought after object. So a real estate agent knocked on the door and said, "I've got a buyer who's prepared to pay blah blah blah." He knows I've got no emotion attached to property, so he knows
Yeah.
he's knocking on the right door. I'm like, "How much is he going to pay?" Okay. So talk numbers and I'm gone. So, but and the real estate agents know that. But there's a certain point where you think, okay, my intention on that deal was not to build to sell to make money.
Yeah.
My intention was to build to stay. And
Yeah.
circumstances like that came
Yeah.
up. So I'm like, oh, I'll just go. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's all about your intention and just pushing the boundaries too far. And if they bring you in, then you've got to explain yourself. So be prepared to do that. I don't need the stress.
And don't be scared of the taxman. Like, I personally feel that you need to befriend a taxman. I have a whole podcast that talks about this. That don't be scared to pay taxes. Like, if you are that scared of paying taxes, why are you working? Like, don't stop working, right? Because you have to pay tax, right? Like, it's just like common sense and mentality and mindset thing that it's not about tax saving, it's efficient taxing. Basically, it's not about tax avoidance, it's about efficient taxing. So people are trying to avoid tax, people are trying to cut corners, go illegal, do shady things. I'm like, why are you scared of paying taxes? If paying tax is that problematic, you shouldn't be working, period, right? Don't go PAYG because you have to pay tax, right?
So, Moxim, I think it's really important to set yourself up in your world with an accountant that will go the extra mile for you. That's it. If you've
100%.
got a really clever accountant who'll work hard for you, who won't just say, "Oh, it's too late. You should have told me in May, and I could have maybe done something about your tax. Now you just have to pay all these capital gains or
Yeah.
whatever tax on the
Mm.
money that you earn." It's too late for them to do anything for you, and they're just being lazy. If you get a good
Yeah.
accountant, you will have your meetings towards the end of the financial year, and you will work out what your tax liability is going to be, and you will take action at that moment to
Yeah.
switch a few things around and try and minimize the tax, and you'll do it legally. He's got to keep
Yeah.
his license or she, and
Definitely.
you need to sleep at night, and I do not want to go to jail.
Yes. I think a lot of people treat accountants or buyer's agents, like they're like GPs. Like, they
Yes.
try to get everything from this single person, whereas they fail to understand that accountants and GPs and mortgage brokers, they have specialists in the field. There would be an accountant who is specializing on renovations and property developments, and there's a buyer's agent who basically just does that. And they are specialized in doing that, right? So, the mortgage broker who just does development finance, right? And so you need to find those surgeons rather than sticking around the GPs that are giving you Panadol for everything, right?
Right. So I had an accountant years ago and she was like, "Belinda, you own all this property, but you owe all of this money. Do you get worried?" And I'm looking at how leveraged I was in that moment, going, "No, I'm actually not worried at all." I was
Yeah,
really under leveraged in that minute. And she said to me, "Oh, one day I'll be brave enough to buy my first investment property." And I thought to myself, why am I still with this lady? Because she makes it easy and pleasant for me to do my tax. She's a gorgeous girl. But I
100%.
thought, she's never going to take me next level. And so I
Mm.
started to seek somebody else. Simple
Yeah.
as that.
Amazing next step. So we talk about selection. How do you go around selecting the renovating properties? You've done the structure, you've sorted out your finances, you're ready to basically go out there. How do you go around finding unrenovated properties that are ripe to get you the numbers that you want? Secret stash of fixer-uppers, that you have. You're like, oh, I'm just going to dip into this. Talk to me a bit about that. How do you spot them?
Well, the truth is, once you start renovating in an area and people watch what you do, it's amazing how many people will approach you to either help them with their renovations or maybe even offer you their property to fix up, or they'll tell you about somebody else. So networking and being, talking out the front near the letterbox is gold. That's that's number one. But when you're actually finding your location, the amount of money you have to spend if you're going to go and purchase a property is a big part of the picture, because there's no point doing feasibilities and spending hours researching locations and going deep on the numbers if you can't afford to buy there and you can't afford to renovate there. So that's number one. Number two, identify how much you want to visit the property. Because if you don't want to ever go to the property and you want somebody to do the renovation on your behalf, that opens up the map of Australia. But if you want to go and visit the property, I ask people, if you're going to go back and forth every weekend or every afternoon, how far are you prepared to travel? Is it 1 hour? Is it 2 hours? Is it 3 hours? Hubby and I did a reno, 3 hours and 40 minutes with a cup of tea stop in between. But it was 3 hours and 40 minutes from our place. And when I was looking with the real estate agents, I used to go up and back in a day. I'd be in the car at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd get up there. I'd be ready to meet the real estate agents at 9 o'clock. We'd search for properties. It'd get to 1 o'clock. And I did that three times a week for about 2 weeks until I got two deals. So, I mean, it's what your commitment moment is, how far you're prepared to go. It's hard work getting deals, always has been. It really has been hard work.
Mm.
So that was my limit, 3 hours, 40 minutes. It meant that we can pack our car from Bunnings and go up on the weekends and we'd do that. But for some people, they want it just around the corner. But if just around the corner isn't a great place to renovate for profit, then don't be in that location. Don't fall in love with that location. Look for somewhere else. So locations depended on money, profit, whether the area is good, and also how much DIY or how much hands-on stuff you are committing to doing.
Don't get yourself taken on a ride by property spookers, so-called property investment advisors, or buyer's agents who are selling house and land packages or off-the-plan properties or apartments. Get yourself a copy of this book called The Millennial's Guide to Property Investing. This book is not just for millennials. The title suggests, but it's actually the most advanced way of investing in property. This book will relate to your clients, your colleagues, and other business owners. There are so many property spookers out there who have come out of the woodwork over the last 3 to 5 years, and there is so much misinformation out there that I had to write a book about all the F-ups that people can actually avoid in order to be super successful in the property investment journey. Some of these are really easy to identify, but they are so costly to fix once these mistakes are made. So it's a short book, it's easy to read, it has a lot of stories, it has a lot of examples, and it is a true guide for people who wants to do it themselves. My name is Moxin Reza. This is my story, and a lot of you will relate to parts of this story if you're not born in the riches and if you're trying to build a property portfolio that can last generations and help you improve your lifestyle along the way. So I give you a chance to come out there and have a read. Be kind, stay safe, keep smiling, keep investing, and please do check out the book.
And how do you go around selecting it? Because if you're doing a remote, say, renovation, how do you go around shortlisting it? Because there's a gazillion properties out there. There are a gazillion areas. There's 15,000 suburbs out there. How do you go around identifying as to, okay, this is the location where the numbers would work? Or is it just open square where, you're looking for rundown properties at any given price point?
Look, there was a quick formula given to me years and years ago that I still use and tell my students to use. And that formula is 1.4. So you look at the price of properties, say 300,000, times that by of the unrenovated properties, times that by 1.4. Quick, do the math. What's that?
It's about 420.
All right. So if
Yeah.
you're in an area where unrenovated properties are sitting there for 300,000 and fully renovated properties are selling for 440,000 and you believe you can renovate that property with that amount of money in between, so your renovation spend in that case is pretty tight, then that's where you start to look. Like those quick figures will prevent you from spending hours. I'll give you an example. Newtown in Sydney, I looked at an unrenovated property and it was 1.57, so we'll call it 1.6. I was looking at fully renovated properties for 1,750.
Mm,
Really similar, like just one was
mm.
finished and one was not. And I thought I would be lucky to be able to renovate that property and bring it to the same standard as the other one for less than, or it was going to be a break even at best.
Yeah.
So, do the quick figures, make
So
sure there's
40%
disparity.
more is basically what you're looking for in the difference between unrenovated versus renovated property. Because if you say 1.4 rule,
Yeah, 1.4. So you take the number of the unrenovated property, 300,000, times it by 1.4, and if there's fully renovated properties on the market in that same area, comparing apples to apples, then that area is worthwhile spending a bit more time on. What I find is people go deep in areas, and I think you're wasting your time. The if the bottom part of the market is being really pushed up and it's just taking that gap away from the highly renovated properties and what they're selling for and what people are prepared just to buy into that particular area, there might be no profit in buying in that spot. If you're going to do a flip, that is.
and is there a bias in, where the pricing sits? Are people more focused on affordable price points or high end, luxury renovations? Where does, the quick bang happens? Because I've seen people doing renovations for 1.5 year, spending $800,000 on, massive major renovations with extensions. So where do you
Yeah.
draw the line?
I really like people to be buying in at around about 40% of the median price point in that area, but you want to leave room to move. So, what you don't want to be buying is at the top end of the market and adding value and expecting your real estate agent to set the new high price for that area. It's too
Yeah.
hard. So, we want
Yeah.
this to be easy for ourselves. We fall in love with properties. I call it the romance of renovating. We've all
Yeah.
watched The Block and all those shows. We fall in love with deals way too fast. The
Yeah.
numbers have to stack. We've got to make sure that there's profit and we've got to make sure that the types of properties we're taking on, we can do in a timely fashion. Choose a property where you can stand back and think, I'm going to be able to do this in a few short weeks, not months or year
Yeah.
or years.
Yeah. So you're talking about cosmetic renovations versus structural renovations. Help
Yeah.
people understand what's the major difference. How do you define 3 weeks versus 4 months?
Yeah, so structural renovations take longer, usually take some kind of council approval or at least compliance, certifications. And private certifiers will move a little bit faster than councils. But at the same time, again, they're a bit more complicated and they take longer. And then you've got more trades, especially if you're extending out or up, much harder to run really clean feasibilities where you're predicting your end profit and you're predicting your exact renovation spend. There's, a few more things can happen in between. I like people to stick to cosmetic renovations and the simple stuff. That's not to say I'm afraid of doing structural renovations. I'm doing a massive one in my own houses. The renovations are 1.4 spend, and we're splitting a great big old house inside the structure. So a big old 70s house split down the middle with a firewall and privacy wall. And we're converting it into two 4-bedroom townhouses, basically side by side. Now, my
Yeah.
spend is 1.4, but my profit margin is 1.4 also. So the
Yeah.
equity increase is 1.4. It's very, very nice, but it's a much bigger project than,
So
and
this is
it's not.
more you diving more into the development world rather than just the renovation and the flip world, basically.
I love everybody I speak to think bigger. So
Yeah.
if there's opportunity, if you're doing a renovation, but there's an opportunity to buy, you've got one, say if you're purchasing a property, you've got one lot of stamp duty, you've got one lot of sitting there reading through contracts and negotiating with real estate agents. If you can get a property that has some kind of subdivision attached to it or potential, or maybe even a granny flat or something a bit, go for it. It's all,
Yeah.
especially if you're buying and holding and you want that cash flow, you need your mortgages taken care of, then you're definitely looking for more opportunity. And I love when people turn 3 bedrooms into 4 and all that kind of stuff.
When you talk about renovated properties and valuers and how, people value this, be it real estate agents or bank valuers or owner occupier walking through what has your experience been? Is there a lift instantly? Does the bank comes in and says like, wow, that's a new property, we're going to give you a higher valuation? How quick does that happen?
You mean quick as in how soon you can go from the unrenovated property to something that's finished and you can get the bank valuer there or someone there to.
Yes. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so beginners will do this in 6 to 9 weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe pushed out to 12 if you're in an area where it's a bit trickier to get tradies,
Yeah.
particularly if you buy the right type of property to renovate. And that's the blowout time that occurs when you buy a structural renovation, Moxin. There's the time on council, the holding time, getting trades there, just the build process slows down and sometimes can push out to 18 months. So if you're going to do 18 months, you might as well build a new place.
Well, yes, true. And when you talk about structural renovations, was it cosmetic renovations? In cosmetic renovations, are we talking the path of taking walls down, stripping the walls, doing new plasters, or is it just a lick and shift basically?
I love it when you don't have to rip everything out of a property, and there's plenty that come past my desk and my students work on that I think, yeah, this is the one because you actually don't have to strip this back to the bare frames. But some properties require it, and so long as there's enough meat in the sandwich for that to occur and you still make profit, you get a really nice finish when you've got new gyprock and you've stripped it right back.
Mm.
Anything inside the walls is fair game. Anything that the neighbours won't notice. Once you start moving windows around or you start really changing the plans or doing additions, that's when it becomes something you need to report to council about or get uh, certification for. Anything that you inside is fair game. I love opening up those spaces between living and dining and kitchen. Like I like that nice open family living that we seem to enjoy here so much in Australia and that people will pay more money for. I love making an impact with styling and good paint colors so that your property valuer, if you can get a valuer to walk through your house when it's finished, that does you a nice service when you've renovated to a decent quality. It
Yeah.
doesn't do you a service if you've just got the spray gun out and sprayed over everything in white paint and gone, oh, okay, there you go. That's renovated. Let's sell this for more than I bought for it. A good property valuer or a real estate agent will be going, no, this is kind of worth exactly what you paid for it in the first place. You've just covered some of the rubbish with some paint. Yeah. So
Yeah. How do you decide when to strip and when to just put a lick of paint?
it's a room by room experience. It's a room by
Really?
room mental dissection. So we look from top to bottom, from outside, from in, at the floors, and according to your budget, how much you've got to spend, you'll prioritize the things that are the worst. And I think kitchens and bathrooms sell homes, so always prioritize looking at those areas because they have to get the tick of approval from whoever the chef in the family is. And
Yes.
bathrooms have to feel clean, like swear we or get ready for our busy days, or we wind down after a busy day. So they've got to have a feel to them, bathrooms and kitchens. So, and the other thing is perhaps even adding a second toilet. There's one bathroom. Every family, if you've ever lived in a house with only one toilet, you'll appreciate that second toilet.
Yes.
Even better an ensuite, but if you can even sneak a second toilet in, that will earn you a bit of extra cash. And then again, probably the next layer up is adding an extra bedroom if you've got the internal space to do that without too much drama. So we're always looking to get a property. You have a property, let's make the most from that one property. We've got
Yeah.
all the opportunity. Let's take a moment. Let's do some planning. People go in there and they rush in and they rip everything out and put it in the skip bin. And I think, just take a minute, guys. Just have a look around you and think, what can be improved? Was you look at kitchens, the carcass at the back, sometimes they're in decent condition. So you actually don't need to rip them out, put them in the skip bin and get another carcass that's essentially the same. That's just a waste
Doesn't
of
make
time and money. So take a moment, do some proper planning, top to bottom, sides in, floors, from the front of the house right through, room by room, and just write down your schedule, cost it out, and then you'll work out what your must-haves, your must-dos, and your need-to-dos, compared to your "I'd like to do these things." That kind of you prioritize according to that.
Yeah. And I see a lot of people overcapitalizing, right? Because they see themselves living in there. They get emotionally attached to the property. I remember when I did the first one, I did that quite actively. And it's not intentional. What do you say to that?
Oh, it got swept along. Swept along. And every time we go to a shop to buy something for our properties, that happens. You go to Harvey Norman to buy a reasonably priced, no branded oven. Next minute, you've bought a mealie and you've got the
Million.
free cooking classes to go along with it. You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so we're in this world where we're marketed at so much by furniture stores and designers, and there's so much around us, and we'll look at Pinterest and Instagram for inspiration and we'll get swept along. So in the end, it's just sticking to the numbers, sticking to your plan. That business-like attitude is everything. With the partners you team up with the properties you look at, with the renovation that you do, pulling the emotion out, but also creating a home that really evokes emotion in your buyer and your buyer's agents and your property valuers. They have emotion too. They feel all the feels when they walk through your property, and you want everybody who looks at your property to buy to feel all the feels so that they go nuts and pay you more than they should.
Yeah.
That's it.
Uh,
If you can get that, if
Also,
you can master that, you've mastered it.
I think also what's important is that you need to ensure that you are bringing it to the standards of the area. Like you can't have a property that does not suit the area. You can't, renovate $1 million renovation to an area where, average price is only $700,000, $800,000 and people don't expect you to have marble bench tops and tiles to the ceiling, for example. So it has to match the area dynamics. Like you need to understand the ultimate buyer quite actively, where they're not going to know a difference between a $5 tile and a $20 tile, right? So, you need to basically go down that path as well, isn't it?
You've done this before. Yeah, that's spot on. Absolutely spot on. We renovate to the demographic. Like we predict who our buyer is most likely to be, and we give them what they want.
Yeah.
And we look at the bigger pool of buyers. So we're not doing something that's going to polarize a certain part of the market. So, if you're thinking that you might sell to a downsizer, we have to watch things like showers over baths and things that, as people age, are not easy for them to navigate.
Yeah.
If we're looking for young kids, then it's really important to put a bath in, because a family with young kids would prefer a bath rather than having a bathroom without one. So we're always thinking, who's our demographic? Are we in a coastal area? Are we in a country area? Are we doing like a modern farmhouse vibe? Are we doing something that's really modern? If you really like modern and sleek and city chic, and you're in Sydney and you're renovating a place that's in Mudgee, then the Mudgee people aren't going to appreciate that, because they're country people. They've grown up in a softer, warmer home. It's cold there in winters. Like, it has a different environment. So we are absolutely researching and planning and targeting our renovations to suit the majority of the buyers. We
Yeah.
want people to fight for our property,
Yes.
and then they pay more.
So true. I saw this one property because we do buyer's agency. I saw this one property which has LED lights all across the house. And I was like, geez, LED house lights are like either high end or really cheap houses, or like apartments where, it's 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom for Airbnb style houses. So you could tell that, someone has really gone overboard in trying to do the renovation and, try to highlight the kitchen with under down lights and LED
Right.
strips everywhere. And so I was like, they haven't really thought the market dynamics, right? If you're talking about single parent market here, they don't appreciate, downlights or LED strips here. It's more, how is the space more effective, and can they get more space for the children and play around and all of that. So it's more about traditional stuff and the convenience rather than, the flashiness to the house as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What else could they have spent their money on that had a higher priority than all of those lights? Unless hubby's a sparky.
And this is a close. That brings us to the end of part 2 of our renovation series in real estate. We have covered everything from 1 to 4 rule, the tax implications, the difference between cosmetic and structural renovations. But the journey does not stop here. We are right in the middle in part 3, which is the next part. We'll dive deeper into understanding your target audience, your target demographics, matching renovations to market expectations, and how to run quick feasibility checks that could actually save you from costly mistakes. You won't want to miss this part, which was one of my favorites. So see you on the other side in part 3. Take care. Stay safe. Keep smiling. Keep investing. This is Moss checking out. Adios.